The temperatures this week show no sign of change, with temperatures staying in the mid-80s. Evan Liss is in the Cronkite News Weather Center with more.
Congratulations! If you are watching this, you've been selected to be part of the Cronkite News Weather team. Through the weather segment, you have the ability to add a personal touch to the broadcast while keeping Arizonans informed in a way they just can't get through a weather app. Now you might be thinking, am I qualified for this? The short answer is yes, you are. The Cronkite Weather team comes from a variety of different backgrounds.
Anything like weather I've never done before.
I have not done any weather-related stuff before in my entire career.
I have never done the weather forecast before. I've always been on the other side of the camera filming it.
Never did anything weather-related before. I was a weather anchor at Cronkite News, actually. Not once in the past.
While a weather background isn't required, it can be helpful. Our Friday weatherman, Evan Liss, is double majoring in broadcast journalism and meteorology.
Nowadays, with everyone just being able to check the weather on their phone, I think that it's really important that in TV news, or in TV weather, I should say, broadcast meteorology, it's important for us to really be telling the story of what's going on with the weather, and if we can, connect it to climate as well.
A lot of places are seeing their first snowfall of the season with what's called a November Witch storm system. A storm system like this was actually what was responsible for sinking the Edmund Fitzgerald on November 10th, 1975.
As part of the weather team, the methods of preparing for the broadcast are similar across the board. However, once you've got it down, you'll have more freedom to make the segment your own.
I'm just doing broadcast journalism, so I am not the most educated on the weather trends and when it comes to weather, so every day I'm scheduled to do the weather segment on Cronkite News. Earlier that day, I like to watch the local news station's weather report.
So before we start our weather broadcasts, we use the weather computer to set our slides that we want to run through during the weather segment of the show. Now the computer looks a lot scarier than it actually is. The computer's data automatically updates every second of the day with all of the new temperatures and probabilities of rain and wind and stuff like that. And we just take the slides that we want and we set them in the order that we want to use them.
And I kind of use them as like PowerPoint slides like you would in school. And just kind of based off what I see, I try to make a story based off of it.
We have everything from the state's highs to the futurecast showing if there's going to be any wind or rain, as well as region temperatures and even the whole country temperatures. So I'll pick which ones I want to use in my forecast.
We look at observations and current conditions first. So current conditions and observations are the basis of any good weather forecast. So you're looking at your current temperatures around the state. You're looking at your wind speeds. You're looking at your dew point.
After that, I move on to much larger scale meteorological features like the jet stream here, which is basically the main driver for most of our weather in the United States. It's also super important to check in on atmospheric moisture, or in other words, humidity, as it is the fuel for any storm system that produces precipitation.
If there's anything interesting happening, I'm immediately putting that right in the weather forecast. Like if there's any rain, or if it's going to be very cloudy or thunderstorms, I had thunderstorms once, that's going right in. Now looking at our evening planner, right now we actually have some severe thunderstorms at around 6 p.m. right now. So be careful if you're driving anywhere, you're going to be outside, you might get rained on.
Now that I've picked which graphics I'm going to use for my forecast, I am going to put on my microphone so that everyone can hear me.
Now the mic just looks like a little tiny black box with a long thin wire cord coming out of it. On the end of that is just a little tiny mic on a clip that clips to our tie or anywhere on our suit.
And I'm going to grab this remote, which lets me change the graphic behind me as I am moving throughout my forecast.
There's a lot of buttons on the remote, but the only one that the weather anchor is concerned with is the big green arrow button. The arrow button does two things. One, when they press the button, it switches from the slide they're currently on to the next slide. Or if it's a slide that has an animation, like say rain cascading down the Midwest of the continental US, the button will play that animation of that rain going. So that's really the only button on the remote the weather anchor is concerned with.
Now I'm going to head over to the green screen so we can get the shot set up and I can start practicing. As you can see, I am just standing in front of a blank green screen, but what you are seeing is me in front of my graphics that I have chosen.
Once I'm ready to go, we'll record the forecast for real, and if I like it, then we'll keep it. But the good part about recording it before the show actually starts is that if I mess up, it's okay, we can restart. But it also is a learning process in that I don't want to, stop in the middle of it if I'm just fumbling one word, that I need to learn how to keep going.
With a team diverse in backgrounds, there's also a wide range of difficulties our weather team might face. Luckily, we have advice for those too.
I would say the most challenging thing about the job is not having a script and having to come up with everything on the fly.
And then when I'm actually doing it, trying to remember all those things as well as which way to walk, not walking out of frame, where to point.
What I am seeing on screen is opposite of what I'm thinking. This means when I am stepping this way, I'm actually stepping the opposite way on the camera. And so I have to remember that when I am going through my map.
You have to know what you're saying, and you have to make sure you're saying enough to where it fills up the time, but you also have to make sure you're not saying too much to where you go over the time, which is an issue I run into a lot.
I have from day one struggled to get it within the time range, and I still to this day have a hard time getting it within either we have a minute 30 seconds or a minute 15. My wonderful directors who will help me and producers who will help me kind of go back towards the more public broadcasting side of things and general audience broadcast side of things, where they're like, no, really make it like simple. Like if you were talking to a couple people who you just met about the weather, how would you tell them about, you know, these features, those sciencey features that you're talking about? That's great, but how would you convert that into real world effects for them?
I just felt like I was reading numbers off a screen when I first started going into weather. But I think through this I have learned quite a bit about weather, and that's been really cool. Yeah.
Now that the semester is over, the Fall 2021 weather team has some advice for those to follow.
Use the internet as a tool to learn all about the science in weather, because there are so many free resources online to do that. And I think if you're going to be up here presenting in a professional capacity, I think it's pretty important to have that background so that you can be as informed as possible, because you, to the audience, you're the expert.
If you go up there and you're scared and nervous, that's going to show on camera. You just have to truly be confident, and if you mess up, that's okay. Everyone messes up. Even people at the network level still mess up.
Now, I'm not authorized to evacuate our ticket, but this temperature seems pretty high. Wickenburg is a total loss.
In this day and age, they're going to hire you over someone else if you have as many skills behind your belt as possible, and weather is one of those. Weather experience.
The rain is there, looking for showers only in the Kern River Valley. Come on, let's sing along.
Anybody who is considering broadcast journalism should definitely give weather a try. It's a great skill to have, and ad-libbing on air is an amazing skill to have, and it's a lot of practice. It takes a lot of practice, and I think everybody can always fine-tune those ad-lib skills. You never know when the teleprompter is going to go down. You never know when you're going to have to talk to your co-anchor or talk to the viewers, talk to the camera.
I understand you've got some cooking tips for us, Diane. I understand you've got some cooking tips for us, Diane. I understand you've got some cooking tips for us, Diane.
Doing weather is going to make you a better anchor anyway, because anyone can read off of a script or off of a prompter, but to sit in front of the green screen and ad-lib and make up a whole minute, a minute 15 in your head, that's a whole nother skill as a journalist, and that's going to make you better at reading off a script and better at ad-libbing and better at all other aspects of journalism going into weather.
And we are clear.
Yes! All right! I don't believe it!
The weather segment is a unique opportunity to be part of the Cronkite newscast in a way that lets your personality shine through. If you approach your new position with enthusiasm, you'll find your own set of challenges and your own set of solutions. Be prepared, but also be prepared for things to change. Don't be scared to try new things. Ask questions and listen to notes from the faculty and production staff. And never get complacent with your ability. Every show is a chance to learn something new. And if you take full advantage of your position, you might just learn everything you need to be the next Al Roker.
Happy holidays, and in the Cronkite News Weather Center, I'm Milan Andrade.
Isabella Fredrickson in the Weather Center.
In the Weather Center, Alyssa Stoney, Cronkite News.
I'm Evan Liss in the Cronkite News Weather Center.
In the Weather Center, Nick Shesky, Cronkite News.